Let me tell you, I never thought I'd be in a showdown that'd make the Alamo look like a neighborhood bake sale, but that's exactly where I found myself the day Karen and her pastel pink tracksuit rolled up on my land brandishing a clipboard like it was the nuclear football. Seriously, if you've ever wondered what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, well, sometimes the object's just an old guy with a truck and a dead wife's rose garden, and the force is a woman convinced her HOA badge makes her queen of the free world. I'm Marcus Thorne. And until that morning, I was just enjoying the quiet retirement I'd earned after 20 years in the Army Corps of Engineers and another 15 as the county surveyor. Peaceful, coffee on the porch, the hum of bees around Sarah's prize-winning roses, the comfort of the land we'd bought together and poured our lives into. That all changed the second Karen declared with the full nasal authority of someone who once sent back soup at Panera that my little vegetable patch was now future Petunia territory by decree of the Whispering Pines Estates Homeowners Association. My truck trespassing, she said. My garden violating Article 9, Section C. The audacity was almost impressive. Behind her, a bunch of guys were unrolling chain link like they were laying barbed wire at the Berlin Wall right through the heart of my property. It sliced my driveway in half, left my truck marooned, and here's the part that'll stick with me long after the concrete footings are gone, ran right through the patch where Sarah's roses still bloomed. The posts they'd set up already stood like a line of tiny tombstones, not an encroachment, an invasion. I kept my voice steady. Years in the service teaches you that. But inside I was running hot. That fence is 37 feet inside my property line, and you have exactly 1 hour to get your crew and your materials off my land before I call the sheriff. Karen just scoffed, flicking her clipboard with that same little wrist snap you see from a TV judge right before a contempt charge. You're not a member of this community, she said. We have the paperwork. This is common area now. It hit me then this wasn't some honest mistake, a mix-up you could fix over lemonade and a handshake. No, this was a land grab, a hostile takeover signed, sealed, and notarized in ego. Karen thought a piece of plastic and some letterhead trumped 30 years of property tax payments, a registered deed, and every back-breaking day Sarah and I spent making this place a home. She was dead wrong. Dead. Thing is, I wasn't just some cranky retiree with a yard. Before I swapped my boots for a pair of slippers, I was the county surveyor, the one who personally drew, signed, and sealed the official plat for every lot in Whispering Pines. She'd picked a fight with the man who literally wrote the map. So I stared her down, gave her my best, "You're about to learn a lesson" look, and walked away, not wasting another breath. My first call, my lawyer. Second, my friend at the county records office. War had been declared, and not by me. Sarah and I had bought these 10 acres 25 years ago, back when all it was weeds, old oaks, and the occasional deer trail. She saw what it could be. "It's got good bones, Mark," she'd said, running her hand along the bark of that big white oak that still stands at the edge of the yard. We cleared brush by hand, planted an orchard, built the house board by board. When Sarah got sick, the land became her refuge. After she passed, I kept it up as a promise to her and to myself. The last thing she ever asked was to be buried on the little rise above the orchard under that oak tree. Now, Karen's fence ran less than 20 feet from Sarah's grave. I could feel the cold anger rise up, but I tamped it down. Rage is a sledgehammer. I needed a scalpel. Back in my office, a clutter of maps and compasses and old blueprints, I pulled out the original deed, the official survey, and the master plat map I'd signed 15 years before. Every detail was there as clear as the day I'd put pen to paper. The oak tree, the property line, the boundaries undeniable. I drafted a letter to the HOA board, attached the relevant maps, even offered to walk the line with their surveyor. Professional, polite, devastating. Did I think that would end it foolishly? Yes. I figured someone on the board would see sense, realize their president was writing checks she couldn't cash, and put a stop to it. I'd underestimated just how deep Karen's spell ran. A week later, instead of a knock on the door, I got a final notice of violation in my mailbox. A $500 fine for, get this, my mailbox now allegedly an unauthorized structure on common area. The letter was signed in an arrogant swirl by Karen herself. That's when it stopped being just a dispute and became a siege. 2 days after that, I got a letter from a law firm, Dwee, Cheatham and Howe, which honestly sounded fake enough to make me laugh. 3 pages of threats and legalese accusing me of harassment and trespassing on my own land. The message was clear back down or face a lawsuit. You ever try to reason with a brick wall or teach calculus to a rock? That's what dealing with Karen was like. She was counting on me to be intimidated to fold at the first sign of a lawyer. But I wasn't a regular homeowner. My whole life I've been trained to fight methodically, patiently on every front. First step, reconnaissance. I made formal legal demands for every scrap of HOA paperwork, bylaws, minutes, budgets, surveys. I put their lawyer on notice, everything certified mail. Karen thought she had paperwork I was about to drop an avalanche on her. A week later, I had a mountain of documents. I spent a weekend buried in bylaws, budgets, and meeting minutes piecing together a picture that was less community organization and more personal piggy bank. Karen was vetoing paint colors, approving 5-figure lunches for her cronies, running the place like her own little fiefdom. But the kicker was the independent survey they'd been waving around, a blurry, half-baked map from a company whose license had expired. Legally, it was worth less than toilet paper. But the real twist came late one night, combing through century-old county records. I found an easement 20 feet wide running straight from the main road to Blackwood Creek, right through the middle of Whispering Pines. On the official plat map there, it was a dotted line I'd almost forgotten I'd even included. The developer had built right over it. And Karen, she'd put her new $50,000 gazebo smack in the middle of a county right-of-way. So now I had 2 weapons: proof that their fence was illegal, and proof that their precious common area was actually a ticking time bomb waiting for the county to reclaim it. All I needed were allies, and that's where David Garcia came in. David was a young dad renting with his wife and daughter, just trying to get by. I saw Karen harassing him over grass length 3.5 inches instead of another $50 fine. Afterward, I walked over, introduced myself, showed him my file. He looked through the maps and the fines and the fake survey, and then his wife Elena joined us, both of them just fed up. I told them about the easement, the wasted money, the way Karen was using everyone's dues to build monuments to herself. That night, David started knocking on doors, spreading the word, and suddenly the resistance had a face. 2 weeks. That's how long it took for the entire subdivision to wake up. The next HOA meeting. Standing room only, packed with neighbors, holding violation notices, budget printouts, and the righteous anger of people who'd finally had enough. When Karen tried to skip past the $30,000 fence agenda item, David stood up, invoked the bylaws, and gave me the floor. I walked them through the evidence photos, official maps, the expired surveyor's license, the county records, the laser line from the survey showing the fence was a good 40 feet inside my land. The crowd grew louder, angrier as each fact landed. Then the coup de grace, the easement, the gazebo, the county's letter demanding the structure be removed. It was bedlam, shouting, calls for Karen's resignation, a vote of no confidence, an audit of the books. Karen sat there pale as a ghost while her empire of fines and fear dissolved before her eyes. The board caved completely. That same night, their lawyer called me, voice trembling with apology, offering to remove the fence pay for all damages, cover my legal fees, and issue a public apology. I didn't gloat. I set my terms: 10 days for full removal, $5,000 for damages, my contractor to restore the lawn and roses, or the lawsuit goes forward. They took the deal. Watching the fence come down was, well, I won't lie, pure satisfaction. Karen showed up one last time, deflated in sweats and a faded t-shirt, just standing there at the edge of the street. You ruined everything, she said, voice thick with self-pity. I looked at her, all the fight gone from her eyes, and just said, no, Karen, you did. You picked a fight over a line on a map, but you never understood what that line meant. It's about respect, knowing where you end and someone else begins. After that, the changes came quick. The board rewrote the worst of the bylaws, rescinded dozens of petty fines, and David was voted in as vice president. The check for my damages arrived, the roses were replanted, and the land healed slowly but surely. The best part? The county, acting on my tip, forced the HOA to tear down the brand new gazebo, restoring the old easement. The rubble stood as a monument to Karen's arrogance, proof that power built on fear and ego always collapses sooner or later. One evening, as the sun set and the cicadas sang, I walked up to Sarah's grave under the oak. The air was soft golden. The ground was unbroken, the scars healed. It hit me this fight wasn't really about land or fences. It was about standing up, about keeping a promise, about remembering that boundaries matter not just on a map, but between people too. See, there's a kind of peace you earn not because you fought, but because you stood your ground. Karen tried to take my past, but lost her own future in the process. Sometimes karma looks a lot like a backhoe and a stack of court orders. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line? When does standing up for yourself turn into revenge? When is fighting back justice, and when does it go too far? Drop your thoughts below. Ever tangled with an HOA tyrant, or had to defend what's yours? Let's hear your stories. Because at the end of the day, justice isn't just about winning. It's about making sure the next bully thinks twice before picking up that clipboard.